G'day guys, I'm D-Mac from NBA Fantasy Bible, and along with me is Kayla Fonte, and together we're Between Two Hoops. Kayla, how are you going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing really well. This is the second show that we're recording this evening, or this evening my time, your morning. This is
Mhm.
our Ads, Drops, Holds, and Streamers, our first show, and make sure you check this one out. Our first show was our Buy Lows and Sell High, so make sure you give that one a check out. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and all of our other platforms, which we'll take you through shortly. But shall we get straight into our Ads, Drops, Holds, and Streamers?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go. Headlined by Musa Diabete. So, of course, we got the bad news that Grant Williams is out with an ACL for the entire season. So that opens up some fantastic short stream value for Musa. Of course, Nick Richards is still sidelined. I think he'll come back shortly. And also Mark Williams. We don't really know what's happening with Mark Williams. It's been like this since last season. Who knows when he's actually going to return, if it is at all this season. So I can't trust that he will. But in the meantime, I think Diabete needs to be rostered.
Yeah, he's looked fantastic. And he even had that interesting stat line where he had, I think, like 0 or 1 points and then like a crap ton of rebounds, which was fantastic. But he's going to
Yeah.
have a big role, right? Even when Nick Richards returns. With Mark Williams, we don't really know. So I think even then he'll still be maybe the backup center receiving quality minutes. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, we saw when Grant Williams was playing and Miles Bridges was not injured, that Diabete was not a 12-teamer. And I think with Grant Williams now gone, I think that opens up those center minutes now. So I think that's great for his value. But again, like I said, Nick Richards could be back anytime shortly. So just keep an eye out for that. But in the short term, Musa is our number one ad guy right now. His teammate, Cody Martin, similar situation, just with the injuries at the moment. I think Cody Martin can be added right now.
Yeah, I agree with that too. He's a little bit up and down at times, but as long as the pathway to minutes are there, he's usually solid.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a theme here. There's not a lot of sexy ads this week, except for there's a man in the middle that we'll go through very shortly. But Malik Beasley, he's been on a hot shooting spree at the moment.
Yeah, he's looked great. Even with Tim Hardaway Jr. returning, he's still been fantastic. And Hardaway's cooled off significantly, so Beasley stepped up.
Yeah, Beasley is the preferred option there quite easily. So make sure Beasley is rostered if you do need those points and threes. Peyton Watson should already have been rostered, but 21% ownership indicates that he's probably available in a lot of your leagues.
Yeah, and I mean, Aaron Gordon is out for a little while, so he's providing that value in the meantime.
Yeah, I think Aaron Gordon isn't too far away. He could only be 1 or 2 weeks away. But in the
Mhm.
meantime, Peyton Watson just has to be had. And he's looking really good. He's looking solid. And this bodes well for those that do have him in dynasty leagues as well. Now, the sexy pick of this bunch is Jared McCain. And the reason why he's still on this ads list is he's only 60% rostered. He had a pretty disappointing game overnight, but he is the rookie of the year favorite, and for good reason. He's just putting up highlights packages left, right, and center.
Yeah, he's looked fantastic, especially offensively too. What he can do, scoring, 3-point shooting, he's been amazing. And as we know, the 76ers have been dealing with so many injuries. I think he's just going to have so many opportunities throughout the season.
Yeah, you alluded to it. We're not sure what's going on with Paul George. Hopefully he's back this week or very shortly. Joel Embiid, again, just can't stay healthy. So I think in the meantime, Jared McCain is going to have some fantastic value alongside of Tyrese Maxey. And also, I just love Jared McCain because I get to tweet about him all the time. I get to tweet some old footage from Australian TV. McCain, you've done it again. Shout out to all the Aussies out there. So I love Jared McCain, and I love his vibe as well. So TikTok
Mhm.
dude, that's okay. I don't find it cringe. For an old guy like myself, I find it quite entertaining.
Same.
Speaking of young guys, Stefan Castle.
Yeah, he's really turned things around. He's looked amazing. Yeah, the Spurs are dealing with a couple injuries here and there, but I mean, he's been fantastic. He's really improved his game in a short span of time, and I expect that to continue.
Yeah, let's see how it all plays out when Devin Vassell returns. Jeremy Sohan's still sidelined for a while. They don't play the same positions, but it just comes down to usage and minutes as well. But in the meantime, Stefan Castle should be on rosters. Malcolm Brogdon, this is an interesting one. So
Mm.
we'll get to our drops very shortly, but we will speak about Bub Carrington. But Malcolm Brogdon, he's sort of come out of nowhere and he's been added in a lot of spots. I tweeted about him when he returned last week. I wasn't too sure. I wasn't convinced, and I'm still not really convinced, but he started over Bub, even with Jordan Poole out overnight against the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah, I think he's more of like a speculation ad, just because I don't really know what direction this is heading in. I know that a lot of people are saying that he's a trade piece, and if that's the case, maybe they're just trying to give him a lot of minutes to build up his trade value. So it could be that, but I don't know. Maybe he'll find himself in a different roster at some point this season.
Yeah, that could be true. I never quite understand showcasing these guys. That he's a former rookie of the year. We know what he's about. So I don't understand the showcase piece. Maybe it's just to show that he's
Mhm.
still healthy right now. But yeah, it's an unusual situation. But for now, I think he can be rostered. He's not a must add, but he can be rostered, particularly if you need those guard stats. The next one here, and we know that he's a fantasy darling. He's a per minute monster. Robert Williams, Time Lord. Donovan Clingan will miss the next game and potentially longer. Clingan,
Mhm.
I still think, needs to be held, and we'll get to our holds shortly. DeAndre Ayton is still going to miss, so I think Time Lord has to be had right now.
Yeah, we talked before about the problem of the three-headed monster at center for Portland, but I mean they can't stay healthy, so they're all taking turns having value, and right now it's Robert Williams.
Yeah, it's time for Time Lord. So get Robert Williams onto your roster. Now, Shaden Sharp, he's very popular, but only 47% rostered. I think he has to be added. If not, yeah, he needs to be rostered everywhere in 12s and probably in 10s as well.
Yeah, he is a must roster guy. I think maybe people are just still concerned about injuries. But I mean, he's looking fantastic, and you got to ride it out.
Yeah, could be concerned about injuries, could be concerned about just killing your field goal percentage as well.
Mhm.
I'm not as concerned. I think he's going to have a lot of usage on that young team. It is a tanking team. I think himself, Anthony Simons, they'll take turns on having big nights. Unfortunately, that doesn't bode well for Scoot Henderson's value as well. But Shaden Sharp has to be on rosters. And finally, TJ McConnell, he's not for everyone, but if you need those assists and just high efficiency, TJ McConnell is your man.
Yeah, the Pacers are still a bit shorthanded as well, so he's posting good value.
He is. And we did see that Tyrese Halliburton had a very solid game overnight, but so did TJ McConnell. So they can coexist. Andrew Nembhard is still sidelined. He should be back fairly shortly. Aaron Naismith is also sidelined as well, but TJ McConnell has some value right now. Here are some holds, and I've highlighted Alex Sarr. Now, he is just, and I'll just show you some highlights of yesterday's game. He was being dropped in a lot of
Mhm.
spots, which I don't quite get. He has to be held in category leagues anyway. I think this is a little bit out there, but I think he's going to be a top 50 guy come end of season in 9 cap.
I want to stay closer to like maybe top 70-ish, but I mean the potential is there. Looking at the stats right now, over the past 7 days, 10.3 points per game and 9 rebounds. So a near double double. Yeah, it's not flashy, but I mean he's still giving you good value. Even a couple assists per game. The steals have dropped to zero point 0.3, 1 block per game. He's been a steady contributor there. It's the field goal percentage that's really dropped him down 38.9% over the past 7 days, and his free throw 50%. We always mention it with rookies where they have shooting struggles and turnover issues and things like that. So it's a natural thing to expect. But I mean, his value in the other categories is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, and you see the highlights here. He's not shy in taking the outside shot, but I think over the course of the season, the Wizards are just going to find some more synergy. They're going to be able to get him a little bit more open, get him some easier looks, and you see some of these pick and roll plays. He's getting to the basket, he's finishing really well, and I think he could actually average more blocks per game. I think two is
Mhm.
real baseline for him. I think the sky's the limit for this guy. He's not going to be a Wemby, but I think he's a Wemby light in the making. So really good highlights there, and I think he just has to be rostered. So extremely
Mhm.
strong hold for me. His teammate Jonas Valanciunas, are they coexisting? Can you hold on to Jonas Valanciunas?
I want to hold him for just a little bit longer, but the minutes are pretty low. He has mostly been producing in the low minutes. It's a little bit concerning, but I kind of want to hold and just see what happens.
Yeah, in one of my main leagues, it's my hometown league. I have both of these guys rostered, and I have Valanciunas rostered almost as insurance for Alex Sarr. If things don't go well for the rookie, they'll pull him and they'll play Valanciunas. And we didn't see it last night against the Pacers. Sarr had a really big game. Valanciunas had a poor game, but I think they can coexist at this point in time, only because Valanciunas is doing really well in limited minutes. I think he could be dropped in certain spots. I think he is droppable, but in most situations, he's a hold. Next one is another guy another big guy, but it's really dependent on whether or not Wendell Carter Jr. returns from injury. Carter has missed a whole heap of games, and Goga's looked really impressive. So I think Goga's is a hold, depending on whether or not Wendell Carter Jr. returns. But yeah, he's must roster whilst Carter is sidelined.
Yeah, he has stepped up in the meantime, and I think that Carter, even when he returns, there's going to be injuries down the stretch for him, most likely as well. So he'll have value like this again, most likely at some point in the season.
Yeah, I love that you assume that Wendell Carter Jr. will be injured. I think, yeah, history tells us that that's probably
Yeah,
true. Peyton Pritchard, he's really cooled off in the last couple of weeks, but I still think he should be rostered.
I think so too, especially while Porzingis is still out. I mean, he's getting those minutes. Al Horford is going to miss back-to-backs, so he's going to have opportunities to produce.
Yep, and there's a back-to-back, second leg of a back-to-back today. So I think Peyton Pritchard is a fantastic stream. If not, you've already got him. You hold on to him, and yeah, we wait until Porzingis does return, and that changes a fair few things. But Peyton Pritchard is a must roster in categories. In points leagues, not as much, but yeah, for categories where you do need the boost in threes and points and just fantastic efficiency, Pritchard needs to be held. Drew Holiday, for his standards, quite a disappointing season, but I think he's still a hold.
Yeah, definitely been underwhelming. I think he's a hold too, just because of what he provides, especially defensively. And like you mentioned before, Porzingis is still out as well.
He's starting to get that D back as well. I think well, throughout the first few weeks, throughout the first 4 weeks, I'll say there barely was any defensive stats. But yeah, he's picking that up right now. He's turning that around, which is good to see. So slowly but surely, he's getting his way back up the ranking board. Next is Al Horford, the aforementioned Al Horford. He's a hold in certain situations where you can afford to maybe put him on your IR or IL, or in a roto situation. He's a must roster guy. I think he's easily top 80 in 9-cat. So where you can stash or put him on an IR and bring someone in when he does sit those back-to-backs, or when he just sits because he's old, he's practically my age. I think he can be held, but yeah, it can be frustrating at times because he will miss those games. And when you need someone, you need bodies, and you've already got someone in your IR, that's a hard hold.
Yeah, and it also comes down to, like we said before, Porzingis being out still, and he's going to take some time to ramp up as well. So Horford is still going to have those pockets of value here and there.
Yeah, so he's not a rest of season guy. He's not an ROS guy, but I think he is someone to have at the moment if you can, like I said, afford to put him into your IR, or you've got him in Roto. Has to be had. Naz Reid. Now, we spoke about Naz Reid on our buy low show. You thought he was a
Mhm.
buy low. I think he's probably closer towards droppable, but for now, he's a hold.
Yeah, I still want to hold on to him just because I think he's seeing a little bit more of a bigger role with Cat being gone. And I think he could still provide that value. He's not going to be a top 100 guy, but I think he's going to be closer to like the mid hundreds and higher. I think that's his ceiling right there. And he is having a rough past couple of weeks. He was
Mm.
ranked like I think like the mid 300s, and he's not that kind of guy. So I'm still holding on to him.
Still holding him. Keep the faith there. His teammate, Jaden McDaniels, he had a rough last game, but prior to that, he had a real fantastic stretch of games shooting the ball. And finally, yes, he's a great defensive guy, but it doesn't always translate to numbers. But it was translating to numbers, the steals, the blocks. It's stuff that we've been wanting to see out of Jaden McDaniels for quite some time.
Yeah, he could be a bit up and down, and he's not the most appealing option, especially based on his history. But this season, he's starting to look a lot better, so I'm comfortable holding.
Yeah, I think Cat not being on that team anymore has helped him this season. But again, he's not really popping out as a must roster guy. But for now, I think he should be rostered, and we'll see where it goes. But I have the faith that he can turn things around and perhaps provide you with that top 100 value rest of season. Mike Conley, this again, it's similar to the Al Horford situation. Mike Conley's going to miss certain games as well because, again, he is old. Are you holding him?
I'm holding him in a couple of deeper leagues, but it's not a hard hold. So, like, if there was a better player to come along in the waiver wire, a hot pickup or streamer, I would feel comfortable streaming his spot if I need to get a win.
Yep. In Roto, I think that's a comfortable hold in head to head, which most of us do play. I think that's a harder hold. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, he's probably verging on that droppable right now, but yeah, easy must hold in Roto. Bogdan Bogdanovic, he's heating up. I'm not saying he's lighting us up fantastically, but you can tell that he's on the way back, and I think he's going to have a real breakout next few games. So watch this space. But Bogdan Bogdanovic for me is a clear hold.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he was injured for a while too, right? So he's still ramping up. The opportunities are there with DeJounte Murray gone, so I expect big things from him, even in that six-man role.
Yeah, he will be playing that six-man role. He won't be starting ahead of Dyson Daniels. We know that now, but yeah, in that role, I still think he's valuable in nine cat, 12 team leagues. Less so in a points league situation. His teammate DeAndre Hunter, a lot of people are dropping him, and look, he can be inconsistent, but he's still getting the minutes. And Rissa Shea is not taking away a lot of those minutes for now. So again, it's one of these hold situations for now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and you definitely got to watch him too, just monitor trends and how he's producing and things like that.
Yeah, he could easily end up on our drops list this time
Yeah.
next week. Donovan Klingen, he is injured, but I would be definitely holding him right now. I know that Portland, they're not playing for much this season apart from drafting or draft picks. So I think Klingen's going to have a fantastic end of season. DeAndre Ayton has been out, so Klingen and Time Lord have really taken advantage. But I think Klingen has showed enough that he's going to be fantastic value come end of season.
Yeah, he's very promising, a lot of potential, and Portland is a very injury-prone team, so there could be injuries that happen throughout the season that boost his value.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me just with those three senses, the three-headed monster, that one of them may get moved, and it won't be Klingon. It would either be Time Lord or Aiton.
Mhm.
Jabari Smith Jr. Now, take us through this one because I have maintained probably for the last 3, maybe 4 weeks that he is droppable. Not necessarily a drop in every situation, but you've got him on the holds list.
Yeah, I am still holding on. He had actually one pretty solid game recently. I'm not hanging on just for that. It's just because he still does have that starting spot. There's not really a whole lot of upside here, especially with talks of Tari Eason potentially taking over that starting job from him. But I'm just still holding on just to see how everything shapes up. He's not a hard hold either. I think if you needed to, you could drop him. Yeah, he's not like a must roster guy, but I prefer to hold if possible.
You make a good point about him starting, and I think they like Tari and Amen coming off the bench right now. It really gives them some impetus in that second unit. So I think Jabari Smith's starting role is solid for now, but he hasn't been doing too much with it. I guess
Yeah.
starting with some of those other high usage guys doesn't help his core. So perhaps if Tari does come into the starting unit, that helps Jabari Smith. So yeah, you could see it both ways. But okay, interesting hold situation there. Another one, Scottie Pippen Jr. We hear that Ja Morant could be back next game. I think he's questionable for today's game,
Mhm.
which will impact Scottie Pippen, but I think he still has a role coming off the bench.
I think so too. He's looked really good this season. And yeah, maybe his minutes dip a little bit, but I mean, I think he's still going to provide solid production to warrant a roster spot.
Yeah, and he had a bit of a breakout with his scoring in the last game, which I don't think you'll see too much more across the rest of the
Mhm.
season. So that could be a real high point, and perhaps you can sell high on him because, yeah, that won't happen with Ja Morant back in the lineup. Alex Caruso, interesting one because we had him on our drops list not that long ago, but you've got him on the holds, same as his teammate Lou Dort.
Yeah, it's just because of Chet being out for a long period of time. They're both a little bit up and down. Caruso has been pretty disappointing for this season, but I don't know. I think there still could be moments of value here and there. So I want to just hold a little bit longer and see how everything shapes up.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out now that Hartenstein's back in the lineup. Caruso did
Mhm.
miss a game or two with injury himself, so once they're all back in the lineup, obviously minus Chet, we'll see how that plays out. But as a stills, he's probably more for me a still streamer in 9cat. And points leagues, I don't think you really need to worry too much about him in 12 teamers. Lou Dort, he was looking really solid before Hartenstein returned. He had one really poor game, and then OKC only had the 2 game week last week. A bit better schedule for them this week.
Yeah. With Dort too, he's done actually a little bit better this season than normally because before he's been just kind of like a streamer guy who's very inconsistent, up and down, better real life player than fantasy.
Yeah.
But this season he's been quite a bit better. So that's the reason I'm holding.
Yeah, he was must roster this time last week. He had one poor game, and I think quite a few people have dropped. But let's see, again, similar to the Caruso situation, let's see how that all plays out. Brandon Boston Jr., he was a must roster guy, and I think he can still be held. But again, the Pelicans are getting healthier. We hear that CJ McCollum's not far away. DeJounte Murray, I think he's listed as doubtful for today's game, but that just indicates that he's just around the corner as well. Zion's still going to be sidelined for some time. Trey Murphy just came back over the last fortnight. So they're getting healthier. That will eventually impact Brandon Boston's time, but I think for now we'll hold and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, as long as they're still dealing with a lot of injuries, Boston is going to provide that value. But yeah, once they start getting healthier and everyone starts ramping up, he's going to be a drop.
Yeah, and I think Bilal Coulibaly was being dropped. He had a much better game overnight. He missed one game with injury. Are you still holding Coulibaly?
I'm still holding for a little bit longer. I just want to see how everything plays out.
Yeah.
It's more of a monitor situation for me right now.
Yeah, next one is Nick Claxton. Strong hold for me. A lot of people were getting very frustrated for good reason. He was
Mhm.
injured, and even when he was playing, he was playing low minutes. He wasn't providing the output that we expected from a guy that was probably taken around that 60 to 70 mark in drafts.
Yeah, I don't think you could drop him right now. I know that he's about 90% rostered, so that has declined over the past few weeks. I'd rather try and trade him because I think you could still get some value there. I think it's better than dropping.
Yeah, interesting. I probably wouldn't trade him right now because you'd be trading him low. So I'd be waiting
Mhm.
for a big game or two or a good stretch of
Yeah.
play and then perhaps look to trade him away because, yeah, again, we spoke about the Nets shenanigans come end of season. We spoke about that on our other show. So, yeah, that situation is going to be quite murky come end of season. Noah Clowney, I still maintain that he's going to have fantastic value come the end of the season. Trace Jackson Davis, take me through this one. This is your pick. I'm not as convinced.
Yeah, this is more of a soft hold for me. I don't know. I just have a feeling that he's gonna start getting better as the season progresses. But yeah, I don't know. He's been very up and down, a little bit underwhelming. Obviously, like we had high expectations for him. But yeah, I don't know. I just have a feeling that's what it is. So I'm going
I guess when
strictly
you've
based
got
off of that.
yeah, hunch is fine, but you've also got a little bit of method to your madness in the fact that Draymond Green is known to miss games, typically through suspension, but he's also an older guy as well. So perhaps there's a
Mhm.
glimmer of hope there for Trace Jackson Davis if Draymond is sidelined at some stage. Chris Dunn, I think he was a really hot pickup last week just because he was starting and putting up some nice minutes. It hasn't really turned out the way that we'd like, but I still think he's got some value, particularly as an assists and steals guy.
Yeah, especially with Norman Powell out for a couple games too. There is that there are those opportunities there.
Speaking of Norman Powell, he's still a clear hold. I think he'll be back in the lineup very shortly. But yeah, some people have been dropping him. I don't get it. He's had a really, really fantastic start to the season and will maintain value whilst Kawhi's sidelined.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's pretty surprising considering how well he's played, and this isn't a long-term injury either. I believe he should be back fairly soon, and Kawhi Leonard's out for who knows how long, so the value's there.
Absolutely. And we finish off with Malik Beasley. He was on our ads list, but for those that already had him, because he was a fantastic streaming option over the last week or so, yeah, he's a clear hold, even though the Pistons are somewhat healthy. Kate Cunningham is still sidelined, so hopefully he returns soon. Whether or not that impacts Malik Beasley, we'll wait and see, but I would still be holding him in 12 teamers.
Yeah, same. But monitor, of course.
Monitor, of course, yeah, he can be very inconsistent with his shooting. Now, some drops, that doesn't mean they are necessarily instant drops. They could be droppable, which would then translate into streamers and 12 teamers. But yeah, we spoke about Bub Carrington and coming off the bench, which is very surprising behind Malcolm Brogdon. But yeah, it's not looking good. And I think he can be dropped in most situations for 12 teamers.
I think so too, but still, the Wizards are a very interesting team right now, so I still want to monitor how everything plays out, like potential trades and things like that. Kyle Kuzma's name has been on the block, even Brogdon as well. So that would change a lot of things for the team.
100%. Grant Williams out for the season with an ACL, so that's
Mhm.
disappointing. Ben Simmons, just the inconsistency of play, missing games through injury management. In head to head, I don't want to roster him because it's too much of a headache for me. And also, it's a bit of a niche build as well. So it's a hard one to roster, in my opinion. I don't know what your thoughts are, but yeah, Ben Simmons, you rostering
Yeah,
him.
I feel the same way. Honestly, I don't even want to stream him. So, like when I do my stream list every day and I see the Nets start playing, I'm like, should I put Simmons? Probably not, because you never know what you're gonna get with this guy. And usually, it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe perhaps in a punts points build, maybe that's the most suited build for him. But
Hmm.
yeah, maybe a punt wins build is probably the most suited. That's just my honest opinion. Terry Rozier. Now it's not an instant drop, and a lot of people would have dropped because Miami had a 2-game week last week, and I believe that he missed both of those games. So that's very disappointing. So he is droppable because even before the injury, he was just not putting up the numbers that we'd expect from Terry Rozier.
Yeah, I was just about to say that too. To start the season, he looked pretty solid, but then he kind of dropped off. So yeah, you can easily move on if you want to. I do have him in a points league where I am holding, but he's not a hard hold for me.
Yeah, and as we have alluded to in previous episodes, it comes down to Jimmy Butler's health. And I think if Jimmy Butler was to miss, then Terry Rozier takes a step up, Jaime Jaquez as well. And Tyler Hero's had a fantastic season so far. So he's really taken the reins there as that, I guess, secondary star on the team. And Terry Rozier's really suffered. So he is droppable, but not an instant drop. Someone who is an instant drop, in my opinion, is Clay Thompson. Unless you are streaming for threes, I don't think he needs to be on rosters.
Yeah, I think so too. I was never super high on him heading into the season either. If you need some threes and points, he's your guy. But even then, he's been a little bit up and down, especially in the points column.
Yep. Former teammate of his, Jonathan Kuminga, and Brandon Pajemski, also a former teammate on our droppable list, and a new warrior, but Buddy Hield, pretty much the replacement for Clay. He's also droppable right now, and he's really taken a hit recently.
Yeah, Heald is probably like one of the better streaming options here, but you don't have to hold on to him for that. Pajemski, that's been rough because we were really high on him heading into the season. But I think you have to move on, time to drop. And the same with Kaminga. But you want to watch out for any injuries or things like that because that's when these guys will step up.
Yeah, we saw a stretch of games last season where Kuminga really stepped up, but that took us a few injuries and just Steve Kerr, I guess, trusting him for a little bit of time. We're not seeing that trust. He's playing low 20 minutes, and that's just not rosterable in 12 teamers right now. Speaking of not rosterable, it's hard to roster D'Angelo Russell right now. So again, I think he can be dropped in a lot of situations.
Yeah, this is a tough one, but he is droppable, especially with how his role has diminished. So is his production. It's hard to roster.
It was just 3 weeks ago that he was actually on our buy low list, and yeah, we were thinking that the minutes would actually ramp up. It's gone the other way, so I think
Mhm.
I'd be comfortable with dropping him right now.
Yeah.
We spoke about Terry Rozier, but Jaime Jaquez, he's rostered in a lot of spots. I don't think he needs to be in 12 teamers.
No, you can stream him, but there's no need to roster him for that.
Yep, streamer. Marcus Smart, still streamer, but again, Memphis are getting healthier. Ja Morant will return. Vince Williams did return and then came out injured as well. But Marcus Smart's just one of those guys that I think will be on and off rosters a fair bit this season.
I think so too. He's pretty up and down. He could be really good at the defensive stats, but yeah, just inconsistent.
Yep. We spoke about Tim Hardaway and Malik Beasley. Beasley's the preferred option over Hardaway right now. But yeah, you know what you get with Hardaway. It's very streaky scoring when he's hot, and when he's not, he doesn't deserve to be even mentioned in 12 team conversations. Next
Yeah, I
one,
agree with
Scoot
that too.
Henderson. Missed a game. I believe he had a bit of a car accident. Didn't get up to speed on all the details there, but he missed a game, and he's probably questionable for the next game.
Yeah, Scoot, he's been coming off the bench. He's been struggling in a couple of categories. He can give you some assists, but the value is just not enough to roster him. I like him as a streamer though.
Yeah, even in a punt field goal situation, his value doesn't rise. It's just not
Mhm.
rosterable right now. It's really a tough one in categories, and he's just not doing enough for him to be rosterable in points either in 12 teamers.
Yeah.
Ochai Agbaji, now we've got Scotty Barnes returned. Toronto are getting healthier, although Emmanuel Quickly is still sidelined. I think he'll be sidelined for another couple, possibly even 3 weeks, which is
Mhm.
very disappointing. But I just don't think there's enough for Agbaji to do right now.
Yeah, as soon as Scotty Barnes came back, his numbers just went downhill. So as long as the front court is healthy, it's going to be hard for him to provide value.
Yep. Now, Wendell Carter Jr.'s missed a whole heap of games. And even when he was there, and if he's healthy, I think his upside is not enough for him to be held in a lot of situations.
I think so too. There was that one stretch during the season where he looked pretty promising, and a lot of people were rushing to add him. But it's
Mm.
just the injuries and the inconsistency that makes me steer clear of Carter Jr.
He is solid when it comes to rebounds, but he's not going to get you elite blocks. He's fine for efficiency, just okay. He's not going to help you win it because it's all low volume type of stuff. Again, the upside is low, so I don't think you have to actually have him on a roster, particularly when he's going through injuries. And as you said earlier, he's quite injury prone. So, yeah, again, you can avoid it. You can roster him if you like and just stash him away and see what happens. But again, he can be dropped. Andre Drummond, we thought that with Embiid in and out of lineups this season, Andre Drummond was such a very popular late round pick in drafts coming into this season. Hasn't really turned out as well as we thought.
He was better to start the season, but yeah, his numbers have kind of tapered off over the past few weeks. I still like him as like a possible streamer, but you don't really have to hold as much, maybe in deeper leagues.
Yep. And someone that also got off to a hot start to the start of the season, Trey Mann, has really come back down to earth. And yeah, I just don't think you need to have him in any situation.
Yeah, I think so too. Streaming option, and that's it. And
Yep.
injuries are something to watch out for. The Hornets have been dealing with a couple, but even then.
It may take an injury to LaMelo for him to come back into relevancy. But yeah, Brandon, we spoke about Brandon Miller on our other show. So yeah, Trey Mann's really taken a back seat to that show. That is the LaMelo and Brandon Miller show. Next one, there's a big list of streamers here. So we're not going to go through all of these, but if you wanted to pause our video, go ahead. A lot of streamers here putting up decent numbers. And again, it could be a combination of injuries, particularly in the case of Luka Doncic, Najee Marshall, and Quentin Grimes, who come into a bit of play in terms of streaming consideration. Another thing to note, Rui Hachimura came back from injury. Dalton Connect's value really dropped off, and he was hot and he was being grabbed everywhere. I picked him up in one of my leagues. I think it was the industry league that we have going at the moment. So he was hot, but he is not right now. Dalton Connect, just a streamer for me now.
Yeah, which sucks too because he looked amazing. And I did hear somewhere that JJ Redick was going to give him a bigger role off the bench, but it's hard to translate that into fantasy value. But he's someone to watch out for when he's in the starting lineup.
Yeah, he needs to be doing more than just shooting and scoring to be able to be a 12-teamer coming off the bench. It's not many guys in the league that can do that, and I don't think he is one right now. But yeah, just keep an eye out for other injuries and other possibilities because when he gets hot, he is super, super hot. Exciting to watch when he is hot. Another one to keep in mind, Keyshawn George. Now we had Jordan Poole. He missed overnight against the Pacers, and we thought, here we go, it's Bub time. Bub didn't start. Malcolm Brogdon started ahead of him, and Keyshawn George also started. So if that continues and Poole does miss a couple of games, and I hope he doesn't because I've got him in a couple of leagues, Keyshawn George could be a nice streaming consideration here.
Yeah, and we talked about it before. The Wizards, you just really got to keep an eye on them right now and everything that's going on with injuries, potential trades, starting lineups, and things like that.
It actually pains me to see Kevin Herter's name on this board only because, look, I don't dislike his game, but I had one of my main leagues. I lost by one block, and that is because Kevin Herter decided he'd become Wemby in the last quarter of their matchup and got 2 blocks in the last quarter, and I ended up losing that matchup. So, yeah, thanks, Kevin Herter. That was a hurt locker for sure. So that was just a personal take on that one. But any other interesting streamers on this list?
Yeah, Ty Jerome really stands out for me. And I was just looking at the stats here. Over the past week, he is averaging 21.7 points per game, 3.7 threes, and 4 assists. So honestly, he has looked really good. And I've had him for the past couple of weeks. And over time, like he's just provided better value every week. So definitely a player to watch out for.
Player to watch out for, top 50 guy in the last week in 9-cat,
Hmm.
which is really interesting. Sort of similar to how Scottie Pippen Jr. was doing it earlier in the season, coming off the bench, providing some nice guard stats. But yeah, Ty Jerome, yeah, fantastic streamer. Do you think he's a must roster or just a streamer at this stage?
Yeah, not a must roster. They are still dealing with a couple of injuries too. Karis LeVert did miss a couple of games. Strus is also out. So that's going to impact his minutes as well. But there's also a couple other players here. The Spurs, a couple of good streamers, especially Keldon Johnson. I believe he was dealing with a bit of an injury there, but he still looked a lot better with Vassell, Sohan out, and even Mitchell as well for Toronto too, with Quickly possibly being sidelined for a couple of weeks at least.
Yeah, you mentioned the Spurs. Harrison Barnes, geez, he's yeah,
Hmm.
shot the lights out in the last week, but yeah, that won't continue,
Yeah,
particularly if Devin
unsustainable.
Vassell does return. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. I've got him in a 30 deep league, so I was able
Oh
to
wow.
yeah, do really well in that league. So that's good for me. But yep,
Hmm.
interesting list of streamers here. So pause this, take it all in, study it, and ask any questions that you have. But yeah, these are guys that are putting out some decent numbers, but not necessarily rosterable or must roster guys in 12 teamers. But yeah, keep an eye out for some of these guys. All right, Kayla, that's a
That's
wrap.
a wrap.
Any last words before we bid farewell to each other?
Yeah, so we're not doing our usual schedule and injury show, but we will be posting on Twitter and Blue Sky about it. So make sure to check that out.
Make sure to check that out. Make sure you check out your other show, Bitches Be Ballin' as well,
Hmm.
which you do with Yuri. Fantastic
Yeah,
show. Make sure you guys
thank
all
you.
subscribe to that. Of course, subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us a like and a follow. And of course, follow us on all our other platforms, Spotify, X, Apple Podcasts as well. So make sure you give us a follow. Keep up to date with everything that's going on in the NBA and fantasy as a whole. But thank you so much, Kayla. And until
Thank you.
next time. Thank you, guys. See ya.
See you then.